My mother-in-law has her hot water heater set to like 11. If you go there and use the hot water, your hands
On a scale of 1 to 10 or 11 degrees?
No, scale of 1 to 10.
Okay.
So when you go there to wash your hands, the guy from the fucking Raiders of the Lost Ark, your hands just melt off.
Why does she have
They're so fucking hot. She loves it. I don't know. It's some weird masochistic thing. And she was on it. She was like, well, I want my hands to be clean when I I'm like, it's not that hot. It's got to be like 160 degrees
By the way,
to be that hot.
The soap will take care of
what
that.
does that.
Yes.
Quiet, please.
It's just, I think she just likes to watch people like me suffer.
In 4, 3, 2...
The Awful Company presents a truly terrible podcast. Welcome to Nonsense Lucky episode number 13. I'm Jeff Parker.
And I'm CJ Little.
This is our take on the week's business, tech, and entertainment headlines. This time, we'll look at travel safety, we'll play the Invention Inspiration Game, and then finish up with more safety, this time looking quickly at railways. How's your week going?
I ordered a lot of standing desks.
Why did you do that?
I have a problem. I have a home office.
Yeah.
My desks are set up perfectly. They're all wired. Everything is
Are they standing desks already?
They're not standing desks.
Why don't you just go get some exercise in the morning? Get your butt out of that
sounds like
chair
a lot of work.
And go do
or
something.
I could just stand and watch cat videos.
You could.
You choose.
Do the kids need a standing desk?
They sell kids standing desks. The cutest things ever.
They do, really?
They really do. The cutest things ever. It's got like 3 inches of travel.
No, of course. That's no travel.
Like their legs are not that long.
What's the point?
It's just so funny to me.
Episode 13. Have you spent the day breaking mirrors, walking under ladders, and crossing paths with black cats?
No. I have a question. If you walk under the ladder and if you walk back under it the other way, does it undo it?
Yeah. If you just walk backwards under the
Walk
ladder,
backwards underneath it?
you'll just start having really good luck. Things will happen. Nice things will happen to you.
Lovely. I'll be right back.
Happy Doctor's Day.
Happy Doctor's Day
While
to
we're
you.
here, would you like to shout out any favorite doctors you know?
Oh, I've got two.
Two. What you got?
I got maybe 3.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. V, my orthopedic surgeon, is great.
Yeah.
And then I'm quite fond of Dr. Holly, who's kind of my neurosurgeon.
Yeah, he's terrific.
He's amazing.
I'm sure I'm going to leave somebody out, so I'm going to apologize in advance.
How many doctors do you have?
Well, some of them aren't even my doctors. Some of them are just friends who are doctors.
Sure.
Shout out to Doctors Azizadeh, Blyer, Israelian, Gulshani, and Wang. Great people all. I owe you so much. I will never be able to repay you. Happy Doctor's Day.
That's a lot of doctors.
April Fool's Day is a couple days away. Have you got any good pranks?
Man.
Have you given this any thought?
My kids listen to this show, so I don't want to say.
Do you get Amazon packages?
I do.
Save all the Amazon boxes for about a month.
I do that anyway.
And, oh, do you? Okay.
I'm a bit of a keeper.
And then tape them all back up like there's something inside of them. And
Put them in the front door.
Put them in the front door.
Just cover the whole front door.
April Fool's just
Just
9
leave them
million
all.
Amazon
Here's
boxes.
the problem with that at my house.
Yeah.
My wife would just be like, "Oh, you bought another standing desk." She wouldn't even blink. My kids either just be like, "Oh, Daddy bought more shit."
Right. It would mean nothing here, too. But
Yeah.
for somebody, that's going to be a funny joke.
You should do it to somebody else's house.
Let's get to our headlines. Canadian siblings born 4 months early set record as the world's most premature twins. 4 months early.
Well, yeah, this makes total sense.
Why?
Well, the NHL draft is coming up. They got to be out and ready for that.
You have to be out before they can draft
Totally.
you. Sure.
They'll be the youngest, take that, Sedin twins. They'll be the youngest twins ever to be playing hockey.
4 months early, they came out and apologized.
So sorry, eh?
So sorry.
So sorry.
China is struggling with too little inflation.
Well, not with the balloons, they weren't.
No, we deflated that pretty quickly.
Yeah, the
didn't we?
F-22s really did struggle with.
This to me sounds like one of those things you do in a bad job interview where you say, I care too much. That's
Oh, yeah.
What are your bad points? I care too much.
What are your biggest weaknesses? I work too hard.
Right.
Yeah.
They've got like 1%, which is better than negative.
Sure.
Negative is a huge problem because
Sure.
then people paid so much for their house and now it's worth less and they freak out.
Sure. Please subscribe to Jeff's newsletter for more inflation tips.
People would mail in their keys when their house would go negative. And it was like, your house is still worth the same amount. If you denominate it in houses, it's still worth exactly one house.
It's still one house.
The problem is you're denominating it in dollars.
Who did they mail their keys to the bank?
Yeah.
With like a letter?
Do you not remember this?
No. Dear bank.
2007, 2008, when people would go, because we had deflation, when the housing price would drop down.
Sure.
And now they owed more on their house than theoretically their house was worth. They would mail their keys back into the bank and abandon the house.
If the bank wants to repossess the house, the keys aren't the biggest problem. They just take the house. These people walking away from their mortgages are like, I'm really concerned that the banks have to pay $30 to a locksmith to have to redo this.
They want to make
I
sure.
know they're going to suck on this $400,000 mortgage that I'm telling them to fuck off on, but another $30 for the door lock.
I don't want to charge them for the keys.
Yeah, I mean, that's
I'm a good
expensive.
person.
Yeah. That's more like a fuck you to the local locksmith, isn't it? Then he doesn't get a job.
Shadowy Catholic group says it buys Grindr data to trace gay priests.
So wait, so they're not allowed to be gay or straight?
You're asking the wrong guy. I'm not Catholic. I have
point.
no idea. They
Good
can be
point.
pissed off about whatever they want.
That's true. Well, they are, and they are.
Yeah.
Don't you worry.
Because they're not getting laid. That's why they're pissed.
Yeah, absolutely.
I get it.
I feel like they're just trying to find the hot priests on Grindr. So So they're just trying to do. They're just trying to see the guys that are super active. They're going to have a pageant.
Apparently, if you're a priest, you're not allowed to be gay. Is that what I'm supposed
What are
to
they
take
allowed?
from
I don't
this?
understand. I guess.
You have to be heterosexual. You can only abuse the little girls.
Wow.
Yeah.
It just got dark.
Yes, it's my fault.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm the one who did the bad thing here.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Yeah. Can you just let him fuck something? Just give him something.
I don't care. It makes no difference to me.
I know it doesn't. I don't have it on my bingo card either.
I think to be a religion, you have to have something you abstain from. So like you can't have chocolate, you can't have
Okay.
Coca-Cola, you can't have shellfish, you can't
Can
have...
we abstain from child molestation? Would that be okay?
That'd be great.
That'd be great.
That
Let's
should be
abstain
the
from
that
That's
actually
my religion.
should be the thing.
That's my religion.
Right.
I just decided.
No meat on Friday. Oh, and also about the kids.
No meat on Friday, semicolon, because they're related but unrelated.
Yeah.
No touchy the kids.
Oh yeah, and also as an afterthought.
Hey, while you're at it, we know you're hungry because you've had nothing but
'Cause you're
granola.
not having meat.
You've had granola and oatmeal all day. But when you feel like, eating a hot dog, don't touch the kids.
The FBI just admitted it bought U.S. location data.
Like, are they lost? Is that
Their
the
Apple
problem?
Maps took them in the wrong direction, so they had to buy some data through a
Fuck,
broker.
where are we right now? You're in D.C. Fuck, how do we get out?
They obviously wanted data, but they were afraid the FISA court was not going to let them get with a warrant.
Sure.
So they just bought it.
Well, or it was just more efficient.
How come when there's a speeding car that's zipping down the freeway, obviously we get its location data
Sure.
from the cell towers because it has to switch from cell tower to cell tower.
Yep.
How come that phone number of that person doesn't pop up immediately?
I think this is a bit of a privacy issue with them popping up.
Once you're going over, let's say, 100 miles an hour, maybe it's not a privacy issue anymore.
Okay.
Maybe it's now you're going 100 miles an hour issue.
Sure. I remember, I don't know if this is still the case, but there's turnpikes in Ohio.
Yeah.
Because Ohio is really good for just getting to other places.
Sure.
Is mainly what, and being from
thoroughfare.
Michigan. Yeah, it's a thoroughfare. It's
a bridge.
They stamp you on the way in and stamp you on the way out with time, but they don't give you a speeding ticket on the way out, which I always thought was odd because they literally know if you sped
Oh, that's awesome.
or not. Now you could,
if you're just going straight through and you're not even stopping for gas.
Well, these
right.
turnpikes, like all they have is like a, whatever, a gas station and a McDonald's. So you could stop and offset your time, but if you don't, why aren't they just like, hey, here's your
know.
$12 toll and your $200 ticket?
Right.
But they don't do it. Like because they would absolutely know.
Oh, that's
in
a
that
great
case.
revenue raiser.
No, it's a terrible idea. Ohio, please don't do this. People already hate you enough. Don't do this.
Why do you hate Ohio?
Have you been to Ohio?
No.
Well, now you understand.
What's in Ohio?
Well, Sandusky, which is pretty awesome. Cedar Point, Kings Island. Ohio has its perks. It's just outweighs.
Ohio's the greatest place in the world, apparently.
Everything gets there last.
Is that true?
Yeah. 5 years later. That's the old Mark Twain quote. Everything comes to Ohio last. So when the world ends, that's where I want to be.
Because you get 5 more years.
I think he said it the other way around. He didn't say like Yoda like I just did. Ohio you must be.
DuckDuckGo has created Duck Assist. This happened about a month ago. It's their AI search. Have you tried it?
Nope.
It's pretty great. You don't. First of all, you don't do anything to get to it. There's no special app. You don't need a special browser.
Sure.
And the really cool thing about it is, unlike most other AI search, they've fed it information that they have a fair degree of confidence is accurate.
Okay.
Their information comes from Wikipedia and Encyclopedia.
Oh, that makes perfect sense.
It's pretty great.
Like
yeah.
vetted sources.
Yes.
What if we just made one of these, but it was just like unvetted sources, like 4chan?
Have
Let's
our
just
own?
feed 4chan into or our own.
Just things we know aren't
terrible.
true.
Just absolutely. Just the Onion. Like I want.
Oh my gosh, the Onion
How
would
good
be
would that
awesome.
be? That would be just had like an AI search of the Onion, and that would be amazing.
But I think this is a cool idea to like not scrape the entire web for information.
Absolutely.
So much of which is bogus.
Yeah.
To actually give it information you have a fair degree of
Then
confidence in.
who controls the truth? What is the truth?
I do. Did you need a volunteer?
Whatever.
I didn't know if you needed a volunteer. I'm here.
Like you have like a.
I'm busy on Thursday. I got the podcast.
16 million flashcards in front of you, and you just have to sort them into piles of true or not true. You're like, Heisenberg principle? Fuck, I don't know.
It's not even
Sure,
kept
yes.
electronically.
No,
I
it's
have them on flashcards.
Yeah, totally. Sorry, the AI is a little behind. It only knows about colors and plants because Jeff hasn't gotten to the rest of the stack yet. What's true or not? Oh, but it's really up to date on aviation and AI itself.
That's all it knows.
That's all it knows.
Speaking of AI, first complete map of a fly brain has uncanny similarities to AI neural networks.
And that's the whole point, right? The neural network is a map of your brain.
Right, but we've actually mapped now a fly brain. We actually created a map of a fruit fly maggot's brain, which is incredibly simple.
Okay.
It's got 3,000 neurons and something like 500,000 synapses.
But now, what do we do with this? The AI just buzzes around your ear and annoys the shit out of you until you kill it. That's all it does. How do you map its brain? Well, it's like an fMRI machine.
A very teeny tiny explorer.
Very teeny.
Lewis and Clarkette.
Oh, they use one of the nanobots. They're like, no. Put the fucking sperm down. Get over in that thing's head and map it out. God damn it.
Draw the map. Come on.
God.
Who's a tiny cartologist?
Do I have a little Amerigo Vespucci over here? Huh?
I mean, a really little one. A really little one.
Totally. You're a little chubby. I need somebody smaller. Who's smaller? Meanwhile, there's 3 guys in the back with a bunch of sperm trying to shove it into the fly's head. No, this is all we know to do.
It's just German nanobot.
If you don't listen to all of these episodes, you have no idea what we're talking about. If you do listen to all of them, I'm sorry. I'm fascinated that we're mapping an entire animal's brain. That is super cool.
Because it's a fairly simple animal to map.
Sure.
It's a little maggot.
It's like a little, not a lot of nodes. By the way, that's half of the people on the 405 on my way over here today. I feel like they should map those people, figure out why that guy in the fucking
Do it
Tesla.
very simply, yeah.
Why can't the guy in the Tesla turn on his turn signal? I don't understand. Just you're changing lanes. Just make it blink. 10 nodes. He's a 10 noder for sure.
The Tesla has more nodes.
The Tesla does have more nodes. That is sadly true in probably most of those
Although
cases.
the steering wheel will fall off in your hand.
Oh, yeah, no, that comes right off. That comes right off.
Here's a thought for the quality control.
Well,
Maybe check and make sure all the wheels are attached.
They're responding to pressure that people say you don't have a convertible. And now they're like, well, you do. You're not going to tell you what you convert. You just convert it from a steering wheel to a non-steering wheel.
Thing, sure.
Yeah. We can say what to convert.
The AI for the self-driving car needs to work really well if you're going to make steering wheels that come off.
Could you see like the AI is just like you're driving down the road in your Tesla and the AI is just like smoking a cigarette, hanging out, and all of a sudden the steering wheel's like, oh, fuck. It's got to take over control of the car.
You're on the job. You're on the job.
Totally. Wake up.
Millions of drone deliveries are headed your way, Wing says.
Oh, my God. I better clean out my garage.
Wing is the Alphabet-owned drone delivery company.
Yeah, it's the W in Alphabet.
And they...
You can't have another W company, just Wing.
They can't do anything with wheels or wheelbarrows or nothing with any other W's.
Nope.
Wow.
That's it. That's how you
I
know they're
hadn't
not gonna
realized
do it.
that was when they changed the name. I hadn't realized that was the rule.
If you have a wheelbarrow company, they are not going to acquire you.
They can't.
They can't.
No,
Unless you change the name to One Wheel Bucket.
They are saying by mid-2024, they will literally be capable of handling millions of deliveries. For millions
That's
of
actually
customers.
really impressive.
They're delivering DoorDash orders with the drones in Australia.
So wait, does the drone that's delivering my DoorDash, does it also take a bite out of my sandwich before it lands? Just for good measure?
There's the DoorDash tax.
Yeah, totally.
We call it the DoorDash tax because you order your food to go and there's always one item that's completely missing.
I mean, it's electrical powered. It doesn't actually eat it. It just takes a bite and spits it out. It's just so you have the same experience.
Well,
You have the continuity.
It has the whole meal. It has a bite of everything.
It tastes it all
nice.
for you. Yeah, of course.
Our bags now come
sealed.
I can't even open them when they come.
Yeah.
You need special scissors.
And for $3, you can buy a roll of those stickers on Alibaba.
Yeah.
And then when you're doing your DoorDash delivery, you just put the stickers back on over it.
Oh, this is more than stickers. They are really bolting this thing down.
Staples.
Small staples, yeah.
There's a store that I know you can go to buy those.
What would you call a store like that?
It's called Scotch Tape.
Okay, coming up next, CJ is going to talk about air travel safety.
Hold on to your seat, folks. Now, I know our listeners have come to know us for exciting content like removable media and daylight savings time. So I thought now, since I spooked some folks, including you, Jeff, on tales of recent airplane near misses and runways, exciting things like that.
Too many of those.
I thought today I would spend a little time talking about just how safe air travel in the U.S. actually is currently.
Okay.
To start that, I thought at first we would talk about cars.
Oh, okay.
Right? That makes sense.
Yeah.
So I've been told that nobody walks in L.A., and based on the 405 this morning, this is true. But driving is getting safer by the year, right? Significantly safer in cars.
I don't
what
think
else would you drive
the
in?
number of collisions is not going down. Just what happens when the collision happens is improving, right?
Well, it depends on how you count the number of collisions. Number of collisions is going up, actually.
I would think.
However,
because the volume of drivers is going up.
yes, if you normalize that number and you look at number of collisions per vehicle mile traveled,
okay,
the number's going down.
Oh,
right?
okay.
Which is good. And I'm specifically looking at the fatality rate, right? So I looked at the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, which is the current body that compiles and researches accident statistics for the entire country.
Okay.
And I looked just over a wide period of time. So the first year that they captured miles driven was 1923, right? So you were, maybe 16. And the motor vehicle death rate was just over 18 and a half deaths for every 100 million miles driven, which seems like a very low number to me.
It does.
Right? So you call it like less than 19 deaths per every 100 million miles driven.
Right.
Now, since 1923...
once I get out to about 100 million miles, I get drowsy.
I get drowsy too. You want to stop, you got to get fuel, and you want to get some starbursts
there
and maybe
could be some accidents
maybe a
once
soda.
you get out to 100 million miles.
So yeah, totally. But your Toyota just keeps going. That thing won't die. Since 1923, the miles death rate has decreased by 93%. And it now stands at 1.3 fatalities per 100 million miles traveled.
But I'm still drowsy after 100 million miles. That's amazing.
They haven't fixed that. You just need a Red Bull. Yeah. Now, as recently as 1998, the rate was 1.6 fatalities per 100 million miles.
1.6, okay.
Yeah, so my point is it's going down, right? Mm-hmm. Where you drive also makes a huge difference.
Of course.
Right? So in 2016, there was a risk of about almost 2 fatalities per 100 million miles traveled on rural roads in the U.S.
Okay.
Versus a risk of about 0.8 fatalities per 100 million miles on urban roads, which means rural driving is almost 3 times more risky than urban driving.
Or rural drivers are just worse drivers.
Yes. I mean, they could be on tractors. I don't know.
Because they don't have to be paying as much attention.
That could be true. Yeah, maybe that could be true.
You really have to focus when you're driving in
an urban
town.
setting. Yeah, sure. Yeah, okay, that could be true. But still, that's bad for you if you're in the other car paying attention and this dude's going to, steamroll into you.
Or if he just hits a tree.
Those things will jump out of nowhere.
They do.
Now let's talk about flying.
Yeah.
Which is what this segment was supposed to be about. The National Transportation Safety Board compiles aviation accident data, right? That's one of the things that they do. For 2019, they showed 40 accidents for U.S. air carriers, so big air carriers operating scheduled service, with a total of 4 fatalities across the whole year.
Wow.
So over that time, they flew 763 billion miles.
Right.
Right? For a total of effectively 0 deaths per 100 million miles.
That's remarkable.
Right? So in the 10 years from 2009 to 2019, 6 of those years had no fatalities for air carriers in the U.S.
Yeah, incredible.
Right? So
way safer than cars.
Absolutely. So roughly speaking, the per mile risk.
We should ban cars.
We should totally ban cars. Roughly speaking, the per mile risk for vehicle transportation is more than 750 times higher than commercial air travel. That shows you just how safe it is per mile traveled.
Cars are a disaster.
Cars are a disaster.
That's what we can conclude from that.
Well, the cars actually are fine. The idiots on the steering wheels that are fine. As
we're
long
going
as
to get rid of
that. Yeah, we are going to get rid of that.
First of all, we're getting rid of the steering wheels.
We started there.
Whether we want to or not.
Yeah, you would have thought you wouldn't have started there. You would have thought you'd started with the software and then the steering wheels, but nope.
Steering wheels go first.
Elon's a fucking genius. He's got this all figured out. So the National Safety Council compiled an odds of dying table. So these guys are fucking hoot to hang out with. An odds of dying table for 2008, which further illustrated the relative risks of flying and driving safely. And it calculated the odds of dying in a motor vehicle accident to be 1 in 98 for your lifetime. So basically a 1 in 100 chance of dying in a motor vehicle accident in your lifetime.
So everyone I know, out of all the people I know, one out of 100 is going to die in an automobile accident.
Yeah, that's shitty. For air and space transport, including air taxis, private flights, things like that, the odds are about 1 in 7,000 for a lifetime, according to the table.
Wow.
Right? It's a big difference.
That's incredible.
It's a really big difference. So why is this? Well, your only real risk on a plane is takeoff and landing. So longer flights have inherently less risk than shorter ones, right? Further padding this stat from a miles traveled perspective.
Yeah.
And then also planes are maintained extremely well. Safety is prioritized in the airline industry, especially in the U.S.
Yeah.
FAA requires inspections. They also stipulate that the owner-operator must maintain the airworthiness of the aircraft and engines during the time between the required inspections and when the maintenance personnel has to come in and do their sort of day-to-day.
Before the maintenance people just have to come in and update it with a floppy drive.
With a floppy drive, yeah, right until the punch tape gets there. And, maintenance requirements vary by aircraft type, right, across the board.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, especially across general aviation, they say you need preventative maintenance about every 25 hours of flying time and minor maintenance at least every 100 hours, give or take. So these things are touched often is the point.
They're looked at a lot.
Right? Technology and safety protocols have improved significantly. So in the 50s and 60s, fatalities occurred roughly every 200,000 flights, give or take, which that number actually seemed high to me. Like I would have thought there would have been more fatalities back then. Today, fatal accidents occur less than once in every 2 million flights, which is insane.
Right.
2 million flights, until you
commercial
have
flights.
Commercial flights.
We're just
US
talking
air
about
carriers.
commercial
Yep.
flights, U.S. air carriers.
So that's more than an order of magnitude difference in safety improvements over 60-ish years.
That's impressive.
And so really my takeaway is that flying on a U.S. air carrier is insanely safe and no one should be worried about their flight. Now, general aviation fatalities number in the hundreds per year. And that's where you've got accidents involving like single engine piston powered airplanes.
Right. And
using
private planes.
Yeah. So that's a whole different
Anytime
animal.
you get on a private plane with a rock star, you're going down.
So, all right. Coming up next, Jeff's going to play a game with me.
No. I'm not done with this.
Oh, okay.
When I'm on the flight and I'm flying who knows where.
Yep.
And we hit enormous turbulence.
Yes.
When I was a kid and I made model airplanes.
Yes.
The wings
Yes.
were separate pieces.
Uh-huh.
And you put them onto the body of the plane.
Yep.
Right?
Same thing now. They just fall off.
Is that true?
No.
What keeps the wings? Is there one piece of metal through the entire wingspan that keeps these things solid?
It's like there's like a backbone. Well, it depends on the plane.
Is there like a spine? Is there something that holds us together? Because I'm always thinking, what if a wing breaks off? We're going to the drink.
The wings don't break off, first of all. Have you seen the 787?
But why not?
Have you seen the 787 stress test?
No.
This video, I will put it in for all of our listeners. I'll put it in the link for this episode. The 787 is a primarily composite body.
Okay.
So one of the stress tests they did was literally pulling the wings up to see how far they would bend until they broke.
Okay.
They almost touched. Like,
wow.
Yeah. If you have any other airline safety questions for me.
Yeah. Are private planes as safe as commercial flights?
It's unclear to me. I looked for stats on this. I couldn't find any. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I would guess, generally speaking, they're probably per mile not as safe. They're probably more in that general aviation bucket. Like fatalities, it's safer from the general public. You don't get stabbed by a fucking spoon carrying guy.
Well, that's on a public flight, right?
Yeah, on a public flight. That's more likely, or just any Spirit Airlines flight.
Just Spirit has the spoon problems?
Yeah, totally.
The flight was United that happened on, but sure.
He thought he was on a Spirit flight.
Is that right?
He was booked on a Spirit flight.
No wonder he was so angry.
Yeah, totally. He was so pissed off. God damn it, the seat's too comfortable. All right, coming up next, Jeff's going to play a game with me. I am concerned.
You should be. Hit the button.
Hitting the button.
Many inventions are inspired by something in nature or a previous invention. Some are discovered when looking for something entirely different. For example, sildenafil, Viagra, was discovered by researchers at Pfizer in 1989 while looking for a treatment for heart-related chest pain.
Yep. Turns out they found the solution.
It had a little side effect.
It did.
So that's how that invention came to be.
Yep.
I thought it might be fun to look at some of the inspiration to inventions and see if you can guess what the invention became.
So you're gonna tell me what the inspiration was. And then I got to tell you what the invention is?
Yes, that's true.
Right.
I mean, even when I look through them and I've seen the answers, some are easy, some are a little more difficult.
Right.
Yeah. In 1957, we'll start with that one, a Swiss engineer noticed burrs stuck into his dog's fur while on a hike.
Okay.
He put them under a microscope to look at them carefully.
Velcro.
You got it.
Nailed
That's
it.
exactly what it was. Okay. In 1943, James Wright combined boric acid and silicone, trying to develop a synthetic rubber during World War II. But it ended up creating substance with unusual properties that could bounce, stretch, and mold.
Epoxy? No. Wait, bounce, stretch, and mold.
Yeah.
What were the inputs again? Silicone?
Boric acid and silicone.
Boric acid and silicone. I mean, this feels like a rubber.
1943.
What was the guy's name?
He was trying to create a rubber, a synthetic rubber, during World War II.
I feel like I know this.
James Wright.
Is there any additional mild hint you can give me?
When you were a kid, you could press it on the funny papers.
Silly putty.
There you go. You could get the reverse print of the comics.
So he's trying to develop something like to support the war effort.
Right. Oh, sure.
And then he's like, well,
goofy fun kid toy.
there's good news and bad news.
Yeah. Sorry about your war.
Sorry about the war. The good news is you can copy over the pictures from the newspaper. All right. Just want to make sure.
Yeah. Hitler's going to be fine, but look, this bounces.
Totally.
In 1905, an 11-year-old boy named Frank Epperson left a mixture of powdered soda and water outside on a cold night, mixing it with a little stick. In the morning, he discovered the mixture had become
I drink my soda out of cans.
Yeah, right, but that didn't used to be the case.
Did he make soda?
In the old days before you had
I wasn't there.
There were 3,000 flavors of sodas you could get at your local soda fountain.
Okay.
They came a lot of times as powdered flavor mixes.
I am this many days old when I learned this.
We've gotten it down to Coca-Cola and a couple of other flavors, but yes, every soda fountain had tons of things they could mix together to make you...
And it was a powder.
Yes, you started with a little flavor powder.
So he invented Otter Pops?
He invented popsicles.
Oh, popsicles.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Isn't that crazy?
How is it that
a kid invented that?
How is it that nobody ever froze the sweet stuff?
I don't know. Isn't that great?
What year was that? 1905?
1905, yeah.
Wow. All right, keep going. I feel like I'm nailing this game. I'm 8 for 10.
1920, Earl Dixon, a Johnson & Johnson employee, wanted to find a way to help his wife quickly and easily dress the cuts and blisters she often got while doing housework.
Band-Aids.
Adhesive bandages. 1853, a chef named George Crumb, a chef at a resort in Sarasota Springs, New York, was asked to make a dish of fried potatoes, but the customer kept sending him back complaining that they were too thick and soggy. In frustration, he sliced the potatoes as thin as he possibly could and fried them until they were crispy.
French fries?
No, potato chips.
Oh, potato chips.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, slice them thin. Okay. Interesting. That's a good one.
In the 1940s, Perry Spencer, an engineer at Raytheon working on radar technology during World War II, noticed that the chocolate bar in his pocket had melted after standing next to a magnetron tube. It inspired him to develop
The microwave.
the microwave.
And first of all, sorry about the cancer in your leg.
Obviously, he was exposed
Didn't
to
know.
it. Yeah.
We used to put on shoes with x-rays.
Oh, yeah.
Like, so you could see the fit, which is a brilliant idea until your fucking foot falls off.
Right. In 1895, a German physicist discovered, by accident while experimenting with cathode rays, he noticed that the screen coated with fluorescent material began to glow when exposed to radiation.
Oh, it was x-rays.
X-rays.
Yeah, I thought we had x-rays in like the early 1800s.
Well, there was the X-rays you got in the 1100s, but the images weren't as good.
Yeah, they were just one color.
They just threw out the whole idea for another 700 years.
Sure.
San Diego, 1953. Team of chemists trying to create a rust prevention solvent.
WD-40.
WD-40. Water displacement 40.
Water displacement, formula number 40. Do you know what the primary ingredient is believed to be?
Fish oil.
Fish oil.
Isn't that weird?
So weird. It's the worst lubricant out, but it's a great water displacer.
1969. Waterproof breathable fabric used in indoor and outdoor gear and clothing. Created by...
Gore-Tex?
Yes.
Oh, all right.
Created by William Gore and Robert Gore.
So it should have been called Gore 2.
The Gores.
They just fucked it up.
An engineer working on a heart monitoring device
EKGs.
accidentally inserted the wrong transistor into his circuit board, causing it to emit electric pulses.
Oh, so interesting. So is that a pacemaker?
That's a pacemaker. That's exactly
Wow.
right.
Pacemaker was invented by accident.
Yeah.
Man, innovation just knows no bounds.
You get this one quickly.
Chloroform.
Yes. If I say his name, it'll give it away.
Don't say his name.
He noticed that mold had contaminated one of his petri dishes, killing the bacteria he was growing.
Penicillin?
Yes. Alexander Fleming.
Huh. I've eaten at a steakhouse. I got food poisoning at a steakhouse.
I'm sure it was.
I did. It was terrible.
I'm
a couple
sure it
weeks
was
ago.
Paul Fleming.
Whatever. One of the Flemings.
1938, DuPont chemist Roy Plunkett discovered, while working on a new refrigerant, that the gas he was working with had solidified into a waxy white substance, was extremely resistant to heat and chemicals.
Is that it?
Yeah.
With 1930s?
1938.
And it was a gas
He was working
refrigerant?
on creating a new refrigerant,
Yeah.
and it solidified into this white waxy substance.
Some kind of coating.
You're on the right path. Extremely resistant to heat and chemicals.
That's a good hint.
Yeah.
I'm going to be really upset about this one. I can already feel it.
He was working on a refrigerant.
Oh, you mentioned that.
Okay. Is that helping?
No.
Teflon.
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 Man, the white, though, really throws me off.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Don't use this, folks.
Yeah, Teflon.
This is really bad for
Yeah.
you. In 1968, Spencer Silver, researcher at 3M, trying to create a super strong adhesive.
Post-it notes.
Post-it notes is correct.
Because I just think it's so awesome that he was out there being like, I'm going to make the best, stickiest thing on the earth.
Right.
And it's like, you did the opposite.
Not so
but
much.
Good work.
1943, naval engineer Richard James was trying to develop a new type of spring for use in ship instruments when he accidentally knocked one of his prototypes off a shelf. He watched the spring bounce down a series of steps
Oh, boy.
and realized its potential as a children's toy.
The Slinky.
The Slinky.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Like it went walking down the stairs.
Completely an accident, and thought
Played the song.
kids would have a lot of fun with this.
That's great.
1879, a chemist was working with coal tar derivatives when he noticed a sweet taste on his fingers. He traced the taste to a chemical compound,
Glycol.
saccharin.
Saccharin.
Yeah.
A coal tar derivative.
Yes.
Oh, I wonder why that's terrible for you. I'm
I know,
sorry.
Is saccharin terrible for you? I don't know the answer.
Well, how do you take your coffee? Do you want sugar or coal? Coal I'm good with.
1956. Actually, it was originally created in the 1930s.
Okay.
But when it was originally created, it was created as a wallpaper cleaner.
Okay.
Then by 1956, they realized what they had was a child's, something they could sell to children.
You mean you can sell anything to a kid except for booze and smokes?
I don't think most kids are going to buy something that cleans wallpaper.
No, that's boring.
That's not going to come up a lot.
I mean, hey, by the way, if your kid will clean your wallpaper, that's a good kid.
Teachers discovered that it worked as a modeling clay.
Play-Doh.
Play-Doh.
Play-Doh is I guess because
Originally a wallpaper cleaner.
Interesting. And delicious.
3 more. 1859, Robert Cheeseborough was visiting oil fields in Pennsylvania when he noticed that oil workers would smear a gooey substance on their skin to protect it from cuts and burns. He later refined it and named it...
Neosporin.
No, Vaseline.
Oh, Vaseline.
2 to go. 1879, a worker at the Procter & Gamble soap factory accidentally left the mixing machine on for too long, causing the soap to become over-aerated and float. Name that soap.
Dove?
Ivory.
Ivory.
It floats.
Really?
Huge hit. Became their best-selling soap.
Because it floated? Or were they taking baths in fucking 20-foot pools?
20 feet deep. Their bathtubs.
I don't understand.
Why is your bathtub 50 feet deep?
Why the fuck do you care if it floats or not? Just reach to the bottom of the tub and grab it. Or is it because there are like 12 kids taking a bath at the same time? I have questions. I need answers. Last one.
This is a good one. This guy was trying to create, if I give you his name, it'll give it away. He was trying to create a new medicine that would alleviate pain and fatigue. The formula he came up with included cocoa leaves, which contain small amounts of cocaine, and cola nuts, which contain caffeine.
This is where Coca-Cola came from?
Coca-Cola is correct. You went 13-6. All right, that's fun with inventions.
I feel like I did better than I expected.
CJ is now going to tell us about...
We're going to go back to train safety, like it's the 1890s.
We should change the name of the podcast from Nonsense to Melatonin.
I think that's taken.
Oh.
Trains appear to be derailing every day in 2023.
Boy, that's true.
Right?
It's in the news all the time.
They are constantly in the news. But the reality is that there have been pretty consistently over 1,000 derailments every year.
That's mind-blowing.
Right? Yeah, over 3 a day on average.
And we hear about once in a while because one is carrying, extraordinarily toxic things that are going to end life in Ohio.
Yep.
And then we don't hear about the other ones.
Yep, that's right. So the Department of Transportation's Federal Railroad Administration, which, by the way, I just learned today is a thing, they've reported on average of about 1,500 train derailments per year between 2005 and 2021.
I had no idea the number was anywhere near that high.
Well, okay, despite the relatively high number of derailments, they rarely lead to an actual disaster. Mm-hmm. Right? Most of them are confined to rail yards with minimal impact on life or property. And even in just 2022...
So the train doesn't actually do that foldy up thing where all the cars crunch together.
It might do the foldy thing, but usually I think you're talking about a couple cars.
Just a
pop
wheel
off.
comes off. Yeah.
And I've learned a lot about how these train yards work. Mm-hmm. Like they'll leave the brakes attached or one of the trail movers attached. Like it's kind of like silly stuff that's not that big of a deal. And in 2022, there were at least 1,100 derailments that left 16 injured and 1 person dead.
Okay.
Arguably, that's safer than any other form of travel.
Sure.
Right, at least for humans. And human error was the leading cause of derailments in 2022, with track defects being the second most common reason trains went off the rails. In many previous years, track defects, though, were the most frequent cause. Mm-hmm. So we're moving the problem into humans, which always gives me a little bit of pause. What's funny is on previous episodes, we talked about how AI airplanes being in 3 axes would be easier. Mm-hmm. How could you ever do an AI train? How would it know how to turn?
Put a brake on the gas pedal, you can take a nap now.
If cow on tracks, stop.
Well, they have cow catchers.
Okay, first of all, that is a name that is some definite misleading advertising. That thing is a cow destroyer, throw you off into the distance. Right. It doesn't catch shit.
Throw the cow off to the side. It does, right.
That's a cow exploder is what they should call that thing.
But at the speeds we drive trains now, it's not even... The cow's not surviving.
It's a cow vaporizer.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's no catching of the cow.
You're left with a steak and a milkshake.
More milkshake than steak, I think. As I think pretty much everybody listening to this podcast probably knows, on February 3rd, 38 of 149 train cars left the tracks in East Palestine, Ohio.
Oh, yeah.
What we know so far from the initial NTSB report is that a wheel bearing had been heating up as the train was carrying toxic chemicals and other cargo through Ohio. An alarm did not sound to alert the crew to check a hot axle until the train passed a sensor not far from where it ultimately derailed. So there's not sensors on the train, they put sensors on the track. So the sensor registered that the wheel bearing was...
But here's the thought, let's put the sensor on the train maybe.
Well, yeah, but you got a lot of cars, and you got networking problems and IP addresses and that. And
I just hear complaints from you.
It's a lot of complaining, to be honest. I don't want to be the IT guy that's going to go fuck with a train. Okay. Car 12 is off. Fuck. The sensor registered that the wheel bearing temperature was 253 degrees above ambient. So call that 300 degrees Fahrenheit, or for Jeff, 150 degrees Celsius.
Oh, that's hot.
That is hot.
That's really hot.
And avid listeners of our show will know that this is the approximate temperature that Jeff makes his fucking tea at. So it's something that I'm mildly familiar with because his tea is literally somehow above boiling. The crew was already braking as the train followed another train. It slowed down even more after hearing the alarm, according to the safety board. The crew then saw fire and smoke and reported a possible derailment to the dispatcher.
Okay.
So that's what happened, right? That's the sort of facts what happened. Then reading through a New York Times opinion piece, I learned that since 1970, the overall number of train cars derailed each year has fallen, while the number of cars carrying hazardous materials on trains that derailed grew. So general train travel is getting safer, it seems. Right. We're just putting worse and worse shit on the trains, is what that tells me.
Sure.
And in 1978 alone, there were a whopping 8,700 derailments across the U.S., which killed 41 people.
That's
just
amazing.
Just
That's
in
a lot of
78,
derailments.
right? Yeah. Now, during both the Obama and Trump administrations, the rail industry successfully lobbied against stricter rules for trains carrying flammable chemicals.
Right.
And against more advanced brakes that experts in rail industry itself have said could lessen the severity of derailments.
Well, it costs money to make them safer.
It does. It costs money to clean up train wrecks. Obama rules did include a provision requiring some hazmat trains to be equipped with improved braking technology. Safety officials, rail executives, and rail workers have widely touted that equipment as a major upgrade to the industry's existing, quote, Civil War era braking system could prevent some derailments. And Norfolk Southern itself pointed out that newer systems could reduce train stopping distances by as much as 60%.
That's a big difference.
Now, I got a little focused in on this wording of Civil War era braking system. I'm like, how in the flying fuck could this still be a thing? Right?
Well, yeah.
Well, as it turns out, I think it's a bit of an exaggeration. The brakes, which are generally friction brakes,
right.
That's a solid, well-known design, right?
Sure.
It's the same basic thing that stops most cars. And like you could technically call power generation, you could say that power generation hasn't changed since before the Civil War, right? It's still steam power, but we use, nuclear gas, oil, coal to fire it.
To heat the steam.
Doesn't mean it's the same. It's a fucking turbine, but it's gotten better. So
you're bitter about this.
I'm kind of bitter. Just because I think it's disingenuous to say that it's like they just popped off some wheels right off, Robert Lee's train.
Sure.
And they're like, well, we're just going to run these.
Let's
I guess
use
they're
this.
fine. Yeah. We're not out of warranty yet. Let's just keep going.
Resistance slows you down. What a find.
Weird.
What a discovery.
And makes heat.
The only thing that's changed probably is how we get rid of the heat.
I don't know if that's changed much. Maybe it might have.
The metals have changed.
The metals have probably changed, yeah. After a 2016 campaign, in which rail industry donors poured more than $6 million into GOP campaign coffers, Trump repealed the brake rule, and the Biden administration has failed to restore it.
$6 million with an M.
With an M.
That doesn't seem like a lot of money.
Not a lot of money to get the brakes pulled off the train.
Just think of what they're going to have to pay for the disaster they've caused in Ohio.
Totally. All of this happened as rail company owners took home more than $200 billion in stock buybacks and dividends, right? And reduced their workforce by nearly 30% as part of this so-called precision scheduled railroading strategy, despite workers' warnings that understaffing has made it more difficult to maintain safety and maintenance standards. On the New York Times piece, there was a map of the train cars and the types of cargo and the final state of each car. And it's pretty fascinating. Lots of hazardous cargo burned, lots of cargo spilled.
Yeah.
I did find one small silver lining. Cars 66 to 74 that were carrying malt liquors and beer, they had no damage.
Of course.
They were fine. I think the people in East Palestine would be like, this is lovely. I got beer brought to me like DoorDash. They just spilled it all in front of my house.
Give me a cup.
But it's literally the only positive I've been able to find in all of this so far, right? This absolute catastrophe. This is also bonkers. The train, which was about almost 2 miles long, 1.7 miles long, had a crew of 2 plus a trainee, which is
3.
Mad 2.5.
Yeah.
Which is madness to me, right? Only 2 people.
It's a tiny crew.
Like on a big ass train.
That's why they were able to take home $200 billion in profit.
Absolutely. Well, they cut your workforce by 30%. It seems to happen.
2 miles worth of trains being supervised by 2.5 people.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I see 2 yahoos in a 16-foot U-Haul truck on the 405 and I get the fucking hives.
Sure.
Like, it's just nuts to me. An analysis by USA Today reported that America has seen a 36% spike in rail hazmat violations over the last 5 years.
Violations now, not just relaxed rules.
Yep.
These are violations
Actual
to
violations.
the relaxed rules.
Yep. So now look, I am no railroad tycoon or Microsoft Train Simulator guru.
Yeah.
But I want to know what in the world
Hang on. Stop there.
Yes.
Is there a Microsoft Railroad Train Simulator?
There is. There is.
That's so cool.
I've actually played it.
I'm a huge fan of the flight simulator.
It's pretty amazing.
I have to know about this.
It totally is a thing. And I believe, I'm not certain about this, but they stopped making it years ago.
Oh, they did?
But no, it looks like the open source community has picked it up and there is like some open source version of it now, which I didn't know until I started looking at this.
Okay. Say goodnight. Say
We should
goodbye
totally
on
go
the
do this. We
podcast.
should go race trains.
Totally going to look for this right now.
I remember playing this like 15, 20 years ago and just thinking, my God, this is boring. Like it's right behind Microsoft Paint Drying Simulator. Why are we doing
that
this?
one.
Yeah, it was a very niche target audience. So what in the world does precision scheduled railroading mean, right? Or PSR as it's called.
Yeah.
So it's a concept in freight railroad.
Getting the trains to run on time.
Well, yeah, until they, end up in a pile
In a heap,
next to, yeah. I mean, that's not quite on time.
Rumpled heap.
So precision scheduled railroading, or PSR as it is known, is a concept in freight railroad operations pioneered by E. Hunter Harrison in 1993. And it's been adopted by nearly every North American Class 1 railroad.
Okay.
And it shifts the focus from older practices, which are like unit trains. So a unit train is where you would have a train of all one type. be like all grain, or it would be all oil or whatever. And hub and spoke based operations to individual cars switching at hump yards to emphasize point-to-point freight car movements on simplified routing networks.
Okay.
So basically, what they're saying is that these freight trains operate on a fixed schedule, much like a passenger train, instead of being dispatched whenever a sufficient number of loaded cars are available.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah. So before, they would wait until you had a big enough train.
It makes perfect sense.
Now they just run the train.
Sure.
And if there's cars to pick up, they pick them up. So these, in the past, these intermodal trains and general...
So some trains are 3 cars long.
I would hope they would go for a slight over 3 cars. But yes, they could be super short.
Yeah.
Because the point is they want to run the train.
Well, I mean, 2-mile trains are obviously absolutely enormous. So
yeah, trains can be 4 miles long, 5 miles long. That's
right.
Crazy.
But theoretically, if you just had a few... If the guy didn't make it with the, the car full of goose feathers that he was going to ship, your train still goes and it's still 2 miles long.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
In the past, these intermodal trains and general merchandise trains operated separately. With PSR, they're combined, right? A train is a train, is basically what they're saying. Right. So that bit makes sense, at least to me. Inventories on freight cars and locomotives are reduced and fewer workers are employed for a given level of traffic. So you basically just be more efficient. The result is an often substantial decrease in railroad operating ratios and other financial and operating metrics at the cost of less reliable service, particularly to smaller customers. Long-term capacity issues, increased derailments, and other safety risks associated with longer trains and crew fatigue. So you get all of this shit sort of comes with the efficiency improvement that you gain. And now with this PSR, you end up with having to rely on trucks still anyway for last mile. You're not getting trains nearly as close to your ultimate customers.
But you also can't, because there's only railroad tracks
but to the ones that you otherwise
places.
could. Yeah, no, I get it. You're not going to bring it to like my house.
Let me explain trains to you.
I understand how they work. They can go any direction. They have a Z-axis. They literally just have one axis. They're literally a single dimensional.
Yeah, go stop.
Go stop. Precision railroading has been criticized on many fronts, right? So shippers complain about poor service and delays. Railroad workers have raised concerns about safety due to reduced inspections and staffing. Service is typically limited on shipping lanes and origin-destination pairs because they don't want to take the time, right? They don't want to shut down the track to give them the time to look at it. They can't. As a result, 20,000 railroad workers were laid off in 2019. The Surface Transportation Board estimates large freight carriers employed 30% fewer workers in 2022 as compared to 2018.
I get it.
So we've shed a lot of jobs. The rail workers have bigger territories to cover. They don't get this time to inspect, as I mentioned earlier. One signal maintainer said, "I can tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt, railroads that are running PSR, it's just a matter of time before the track is in such disrepair that they just don't have a choice but to hire more people and start going back." And he said, I see PSR as a temporary thing because it just can't work. When a train that weighs 20,000 tons is running across the rail, it's going to break stuff.
Oh, yeah, it's going to damage it, right?
Like, there's just no way around that. Advocates claim that shippers benefit in the long run from reduced costs and more reliable schedules, but PSR
until the track breaks.
Until the track breaks.
And then everyone's screwed.
And it's not very reliable when the track's broken, as it turns out.
But I mean, you stop the flow of everything.
Yeah. Well, through that route. I mean, again, you still just route around it, but yeah. So it's been criticized.
How much redundancy in routes is there?
I don't think there's a lot. I mean, I think if you want to go around it, like you're going, like it's some time.
Right.
But you're also probably measuring your shipment duration in days or weeks, not like hours.
Right. It's not
so
urgent.
You add 8 hours to it. It's like, it's like the FedEx guy, stop for a beer. Like
That's how my DoorDash gets to me. That's why it takes so long.
Via train?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would explain.
I'm pretty sure
you order a lot of food.
I'm pretty sure that's what's happening.
You should slow down a little.
I am. I use train.
Funny that when I read about this on the Union Pacific site, there is no mention of the risks, just that PSR will make customers happy and, quote, balance the network.
Until crap breaks.
Until shit starts to break.
Right.
So what can we do about it? Well, to start, the Transportation Secretary can direct his agency to expand the definition of high hazard flammable trains to include all trains carrying any compound that could, explode and poison communities.
You might want to note those.
That would help. This change would help ensure that the first responders are prepared and affected communities are better informed in the event of future disasters. Mm-hmm. I didn't think about the first responders aspect, right? Like when these things come off the rails and are on fire, a bunch of dudes got to go put that fire out.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And they don't know what's in it.
Right.
And in the case of East Palestine, some of the placards on the side of the train that told them what was in the cars melted in the fire, so they couldn't tell.
That's a problem.
It's kind of not good. Okay, what else can we do? The DOT can finalize and implement a rule repealing the Trump administration's reckless decision to allow the transport of highly explosive liquefied natural gas by rail. This is a move that triggered a lawsuit from 16 attorney generals. How many? I mean, that's 16. How many AGs do you have to piss off until people go, that's a bad idea?
16. Apparently 17 because they still got away with it at 16.
Exactly. The agency can require rail companies to deploy more heat sensors, right? These things called hotbox detectors to warn train crews of overheated bearings before derailment happens. This seems like a no-brainer. These sensors do not currently fall under federal regs, but probably should. Mm-hmm. That makes sense. DOT could mandate railroads' participation in a currently voluntary and unevenly used system that lets rail workers and railroads report near misses as they occur. Like, that seems like a good idea.
Sure.
And regulators can listen to rail workers and finalize a rule mandating minimum 2-person crews on trains. Like, they really want
Seems like you already have 2-person, two and a half people.
They want to mandate minimum 2, which means there are trains operating with one fucking human on it, right?
That's the one with 3 cars where the guy with the feathers didn't get there in time.
He did not make it in time. The feathers did not make it. Just 2 people managing a train this long is just madness to me. Which then brought me to this interesting crossover here for all of our older listeners. I was like, we need to bring back the caboose.
Does that not exist anymore?
The caboose are gone. They're long
why?
gone.
How come?
So it's funny you mentioned that because I remember seeing them as a kid all the time. And I was like, but I haven't seen a caboose in 20, 30 years. Like, they're just gone. I see trains all the time. I'm driving around through California and never see a caboose. So until the 80s, laws in the U.S. and Canada required that all freight trains would have a caboose and a full crew for safety.
I don't even know what the caboose did.
The technology eventually advanced to a point where the railroads, in an effort to save money by reducing crew members, stated that cabooses were unnecessary. So the caboose was a place for the crew to sleep, basically.
That's all it was, a sleeper car.
But they also had, you remember the top of the caboose had like a little lookout?
Uh-huh.
So a dude would put his head up in that lookout to watch the train, to just see if anything went sideways.
It's too late by the time he sees it.
Well, you still want to know. You still got to stop at some point, right? Like, if the guy up front doesn't know and he's just pulling along, a little train that could, you're still pulling that thing down.
Is the caboose in communication with the front of the train?
I presume they were then, yes. Radio. So in 1982, a presidential emergency board convened under the Railway Labor Act and directed the U.S. railroads to begin eliminating caboose cars where possible to do so.
Why did they direct them to eliminate them?
They just said that we have the technology now. We don't need, with things like hot box detectors and whatnot, we don't need people in the back of the train.
I thought it was for those guys to sleep.
Yeah.
In the back.
Yeah, it turns out they don't get to sleep anymore.
The technology now is we have them sleeping sitting up?
They just don't sleep.
Is that a new thing?
Yeah, no, they all have German nanobots in them to keep them awake. So I love this. There's a legal exception for the state of Virginia, which had a 1911 law mandating cabooses on the ends of trains. Until the law was repealed in 1988, you had to have a caboose if you went through Virginia.
Because in Virginia, they manufacture cabooses, I'm assuming.
That's what I'm assuming the answer is. Very few cabooses remain in operation today. Some are still used for local trains where it's convenient to have a brakeman at the end of the train to operate switches or on long reverse movements. The guys in the caboose used to have to work the switches. So when you'd go by a switching point,
they would jump out and go switch the switch?
Yeah, they would literally jump out.
They'd have to run 2 miles and switch the switch?
No. When the train went by, they'd jump out and switch it back to whatever its regular state is. Yeah.
Okay, so it would be in the right
they're like
position.
Literally grab bars on them from the run back to get on the train.
And the train would move slow enough they could run and catch up.
I'm presuming it would slow down, or they would just leave a bunch of those guys and they became hobos. I don't know.
Do you know there are still hobos? There are still people who hop trains and ride from point A to point B?
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
It sounds, until you get on the train that's going to Saskatoon.
Right, and there's no in-car service. There's no one bringing you peanuts.
No, there's no in-car service. There's also somebody probably stabbing you with a spoon. So you get the worst of both worlds.
It is the worst of both
worlds. No in-car service and a guy over there eyeballing you.
But an incredible view of the country.
Yeah, an
amazing view of the country, yeah.
No, there's a very small part of me in the back that kind of wants to jump on a train and just go across the country.
Trains, cool. Okay, amazing. We have to get out of here, but quickly before we do, have you seen or read anything good this last week?
Well, I'm working on some boat safety for our next show.
I can't wait.
I feel like that's the right direction for us to go.
I'm going to recommend the Problem with Jon Stewart on Apple TV. It's like The Daily Show, only because it's once a week. It's just one topic, and it is fantastic. I hadn't watched it. It's been on the air now for this is its second season or something like that. And I just caught a couple, and I was like blown away with how good it was.
I totally missed Jon Stewart, so I got to get back into this for sure.
It's so good.
Awesome. I'll check that out.
That's the episode.
Thank you for joining us for all this nonsense, a truly terrible podcast from The Awful Company. Visit us on the web at nonsense.production. I'm CJ Little.
I'm Jeff Parker.
If you like this program, please follow, download, subscribe, and like at Apple and Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Podcastindex.org. Special thanks to our floor director, Adam Sear, and a huge congratulations to you and your new bride, Jennifer.
Congrats, Adam. We'll be here every Thursday morning for more nonsense. Please join us.